This is a story from the Fortune Ledger HQ. Before Netflix was an app, before binge watching became normal, before Are You Still Watching felt like a personal attack, there was a small company mailing DVDs in red envelopes. No stores, no late fees, no guarantee it would survive. And yet, this company didn't just disrupt television. It replaced it. It changed how stories were told, how nights were spent, how entire industries made money. This is the story of how Netflix took over the world. Netflix did not begin with a grand vision of conquering Hollywood. It started with a problem. In 1997, Reed Hastings rented a movie. He returned it late, and the penalty was brutal: a $40 late fee. At the time, late fees were not a mistake in the system. They were the system. Blockbuster made hundreds of millions of dollars every year, not from movies, but from human forgetfulness. Miss a deadline, pay the price. Reed Hastings hated that, not just because of the money, but because of what it represented. Punishing customers was built into the business model. So Hastings asked a deceptively simple question: what if renting movies didn't punish people for being human? That question became Netflix. At first, the idea was laughable. Mailing DVDs sounded slow, expensive, and wildly inconvenient. Why wait days for a movie when you could drive 5 minutes to a Blockbuster? Why trust the mail when shelves were full and immediate? But Netflix noticed something others ignored. DVDs were replacing VHS tapes. They were lighter, cheaper to ship, harder to damage. And something else was quietly changing the world: the internet. People were becoming comfortable ordering things online: books, music, electronics. Amazon had already proven that convenience could beat tradition. So Netflix took the gamble. Netflix launched as a DVD by mail service. Customers would browse online, select movies. Netflix would ship them. When you finished watching, you mailed them back. And there were no due dates, no late fees, just trust. It was radical, and it almost failed. By 2000, Netflix was bleeding cash. The dot-com bubble had burst. Investors were fleeing anything connected to the internet. Money dried up overnight. Netflix was shipping millions of DVDs and losing money on every envelope. The future looked grim. So Reed Hastings made a desperate move. He went to Blockbuster, and he offered to sell Netflix for $50 million. Blockbuster laughed. To them, Netflix was a niche service, a novelty, a toy for tech enthusiasts. Blockbuster had nearly 9,000 stores worldwide, millions of customers, a brand everyone recognized. Netflix was irrelevant. Blockbuster walked away. Netflix walked out. And entertainment would never be the same. In the early 2000s, Blockbuster was untouchable. They dominated movie rentals. They had unmatched scale. They had cash. They had habits. Friday night meant one thing: a trip to Blockbuster. But behind the dominance was a fatal flaw. Blockbuster's profits depended on pain. Late fees were too lucrative to remove. Physical stores were too expensive to abandon. Executives were trapped by their own success. Changing the model meant destroying their own revenue. So they didn't. Netflix, on the other hand, had no stores to protect. And that made all the difference. Netflix's real breakthrough wasn't DVDs. It was the subscription model. Instead of charging per rental, Netflix offered unlimited movies for a flat monthly fee. This single decision changed everything. Customers watched more. They stayed longer. They stopped churning. Netflix gained something priceless: predictable revenue. While Blockbuster depended on foot traffic, Netflix depended on behavior. They tracked what people watched, when they watched, what they abandoned, what they rewatched. Netflix wasn't just renting movies. It was collecting data, and data would become its greatest weapon. Even then, DVDs were only a stepping stone. Netflix knew something the industry refused to accept. Physical media was dying. Bandwidth was improving. Computers were entering living rooms. Internet speeds were climbing. Streaming was inevitable. The only question was who would get there first. In 2007, Netflix launched streaming. The quality was poor. The catalog was thin. The experience was clunky. Most people didn't care. Hollywood didn't care either. Studios licensed content cheaply, believing streaming was a side feature, a bonus. not a threat. Netflix didn't argue. They waited. They learned. They watched how people consumed content. They learned that convenience beats quality. That control mattered more than ownership. That viewers hated waiting a week for the next episode. They wanted everything. Now, Netflix was no longer just a media company. It was a technology company. Every click trained the algorithm. Every pause refined its understanding. Every binge revealed patterns traditional television never could. Netflix didn't rely on intuition. It relied on evidence. They knew what thumbnails worked, what genres retained attention, what actors kept people watching. They didn't guess what people wanted. They measured it. And that allowed Netflix to do something no studio had ever done: predict success before spending millions. Hollywood believed Netflix needed studios. Netflix decided it didn't. In 2013, Netflix released House of Cards. They didn't shoot a pilot. They didn't test audiences. They didn't wait for approval. They ordered 2 full seasons up front. Why? Because the data said it would work. Viewers who liked political dramas also liked Kevin Spacey. Those viewers also liked David Fincher. Those viewers also binged serialized stories. Netflix trusted the numbers over tradition. And it paid off. House of Cards worked. Then came Orange is the New Black, Narcos, Stranger Things, The Crown. Netflix wasn't just distributing content anymore. It was creating culture. Hollywood was no longer skeptical that IT was terrified. Traditional media thought locally. Netflix thought globally. Instead of exporting American shows, Netflix invested in local stories. Spanish, Korean, German, Indian. Shows like Money Heist, Squid Game, Dark became global phenomena. Netflix discovered a simple truth: stories travel, platforms scale, borders don't matter online. Within a decade, Netflix expanded to 190+ countries. No physical stores, no satellites, no cable deals, just an internet connection. By the time competitors reacted, Netflix was years ahead. Disney launched Disney Plus. Warner launched HBO Max. Amazon doubled down on Prime Video. Apple entered with unlimited cash. They copied the interface. They copied the pricing. They couldn't copy the system. Netflix had a decade of data, a trained audience, a culture built around binge watching. That advantage couldn't be bought. Netflix didn't win because it made better shows. It won because it made better decisions earlier. While others protected legacy revenue, Netflix sacrificed short-term profits for long-term control. They killed their own DVD business before anyone else could. They disrupted themselves before the market forced them to. Most companies wait for certainty. Netflix acted on conviction. And the most ironic part? The same forces Netflix used to destroy cable television are now being used against Netflix itself. New competitors, rising costs, changing habits. Because in business, dominance is temporary. And the question is no longer how Netflix took over the world, but who will replace it next.